Good afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this special higher education vertical specific webinar. All right, we will go ahead and get started with some introductions here. We've got a great lineup of hosts for you. Dale Tyler, our awesome sales engineer for the Americas region, is going to be leading us today, along with Ryan Steckman, who's an account manager from our public sector team, and our special guest, Larry Urueta, the senior network systems engineer from North Arizona University, is here to share some tales from the field and do a little bit of an interview to give you an idea of what it's like to implement some Ekahau solutions and handle networking challenges for a university. And with that, I will hand it off to Ryan to get us started.
Thanks a lot, Mary Ellen, and nice to meet everyone. Again, my name is Ryan Steckman, Public Sector Account Manager here at Ekahau, covering higher ed mostly, so definitely familiar with a lot of your folks' environments. I wanted to start off with a quick highlight about Ekahau, just for some folks that may be not familiar or new to us. So Ekahau, we've been around for about 25 years now. We are the most trusted and industry leaders in solutions for Wi-Fi design, optimization, troubleshooting, and security around wireless. We work with 90% of the top 50 largest universities across the US, including my alma mater, West Virginia University. Shout out to them. I saw some folks on the call from Morgantown, so definitely happy to have you. But we do a really good job with helping with those campus environments, like including outdoors, indoors, dorms, classrooms, sports facilities, warehouses. We really help out a lot in those areas. So I'd like to go on to the next slide. So next I'm going to get into, just at a high level, some of the challenges specific in the higher ed space when it comes to wireless. Now I'm going to go at a high level, but Dale is going to be going a little bit more in depth on these challenges on the technical side of things for you folks. So I'll just go high level. So one interesting challenge is, building environments. A lot of universities and colleges, they have a lot of old buildings, some 100 to 200 plus years old. A lot of buildings can have robotics, machinery, there can be warehouses. Those are all difficult building environments to build wireless in, a lot based on the building materials and devices and machines that are within those environments. Good example, West Virginia, we had a lot of older buildings. We're a very old university, so it could be difficult to build networks within those environments. Another challenge would be capacity planning for high density areas. We do really well with helping with overcrowding in certain areas, whether it's a library, food halls, event areas, where there's a lot of faculty and students trying to connect to the wireless. We also get very granular when it comes to client devices. That can be a challenge when you've got classrooms with dozens of devices trying to connect to the internet. So with Ekahau, you can get very granular when it comes to designing networks, and it can be per classroom based on the number and types of devices within those classrooms. Another challenge would be rogue APs and interferences. In my experience, a lot of folks and students, I should say, are starting to bring in access points or wireless printers in their dorms, and which can cause a lot of challenges with the existing wireless that's already in those dorm areas. So having a tool to make sure you can mitigate those interferences and making sure the dorm Wi-Fi is running smoothly can be, a huge lifesaver for those students. Outdoor coverage, another, key challenge. We do really well with outdoor wireless. We do have integrations with Apple Maps and work with Google Maps to help with your outdoor areas so that students and faculty can take advantage of wireless in those public areas outside, whether it's, going in between classes or maybe just want to sit outside and get some work done. Another challenge, obviously large and multiple campuses. We have great licensing models that help with making sure you are able to, cover those areas efficiently, whether it's a very large campus or multiple campuses on different sites. So again, that's very high level on some of the challenges. Dale, our engineer, is going to go through these a little bit more in depth, as well as provide, some more insight. So I'll go ahead and pass it to him, and we'll take it from here.
Right. Thanks, Ryan. And hello, everyone. Excited to have you all join us. And so we want to kind of talk about, elaborate on some of the challenges that Ryan mentioned. Obviously, when it comes to campus, universities, institutions, higher education in general, quite a number, a vast variety of different types of considerations that you got to factor in. A lot of my previous experience came from a retail environment. And this just puts into perspective, how much of a different domain the higher ed vertical is. In many ways, when I think of the client devices out there, the different types of environments, I like to think of it like the wild, wild west. But with the Ekahau solution, you can actually have a play as far as how wild and, how controlled things are. Now, what we have is the Ekahau full product suite, and that's what you see right here. So what we have is the AI Pro software. This is a desktop application, if you're not familiar with it, that runs on Mac OS and Windows devices. Traditionally, this has been the main application that you would use when it comes to predictive design and planning. At one point, this was the primary solution or tool or software application for conducting surveys. And also you can do real-time troubleshooting and analysis in this application. So very powerful tool. This was pretty much the heart and soul of the Ekahau product suite. But next we have our measurement device known as the Sidekick 2. So this is what's going to ensure the accuracy of your measurements as you're conducting surveys, doing real-time troubleshooting and or analysis. And if you're not familiar with that, no worries. Definitely getting some more details about the Sidekick 2 and what exactly that is. And then the Connect subscription, which corresponds with any instance of the AI Pro software that you have. Under the Connect subscription, you're going to find a number of key features and benefits to really make your tasks much simpler, but also ensure that you do have ultimately high performing Wi-Fi across your various locations. Under this Connect subscription, rest assured, this is going to cover your customer support, ensures you have the latest models of APs when it comes to some of your predictive design planning needs. We have a number of dashboard integrations that you might find really helpful. A lot of time-saving benefits there. Our mobile application, Survey and Analyzer, allow you to troubleshoot or survey very conveniently versus carrying a laptop around. Just simply plug your Sidekick 2 into that device. Our newest innovation called AI Pro Online. Definitely, I think you'll be interested in that. If you haven't seen that today or haven't seen that up to today, we'll also give you some insight about Ekahau AI Pro Online, potentially making your job, your life a lot easier. So with that said, we want to kind of talk a little bit first and foremost about these challenging building environments that you might find in the higher ed vertical. As Ryan mentioned, a lot of times you do have these historical architecture buildings, a lot of cement, locations where you can't really drill holes through certain areas, or, they don't want any visible mounting or visible access points for aesthetic reasons. So, a number of things like that. You have the mixed use structures, maybe one day a certain hall is used hardly at all, but in some instances it might be filled with a bunch of students taking exams. So you got to account for that, very dynamic type of environment and use case right there. Dense building materials. Again, we talked about some of the historical architectures, some of the concrete and different types of materials. Sure, in these higher ed education or higher ed vertical across your many locations, probably come across it all. So you also got to account for that, factor that in. And then also restricted access zones. So definitely a number of different challenges in these environments. But again, our Ekahau solution is here to accommodate you, help ensure that these environments aren't so challenging that you can't assure high performing Wi-Fi. So with that, we want to talk about capacity planning for a little bit around for high density areas. Again, you have it all, quite a number of students. For every student, quite a number of devices. You talk about phones, tablets, laptops. In the dorm areas, you have the gaming consoles, you have the media devices, Apple TV, Chromecast plugged in, doing a lot of different things at once. So many users, many applications, some applications high bandwidth. So you have it all over the place. Larry, do you want to talk about a little bit of, some of what you've seen in your environments around, high density and how it might fluctuate?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you kind of already mentioned lecture halls. We see an influx, during exam periods or during sessions, classes. We'll see, classrooms fill up with people, wireless devices. Maybe they're not always depending on the wireless for the instruction, but as soon as that period is over, we also see the influx of just all those devices disperse. So it is interesting just to kind of see the wide variety of laptops, tablets, cellular phones, smartphones, in some of those environments.
Absolutely. So with that Ekahau solution, it's definitely important to account for this. It's not just about the coverage. Capacity is going to be key around capacity considerations. Channel availability, device capabilities, um, a number of different things that this application, Ekahau AI Pro, will allow you to account for, so that you can really simulate that environment, so that ultimately you can come up with a good design, make the best decisions based off that environment. It allows you to be strategic, versus, an alternative of, looking at a floor plan, looking at a map, and just placing APs on that map. There's a lot more to it. Now, what we talked about as well, briefly, what we touched upon, the many different types of devices. While it would be nice to have, a set type of device type capabilities up to date, in this case, we see many Apple devices, that'd be relatively easy to manage. But the reality is not the case, especially in these higher ed environments. You have, in this case, we see old Blackberries, so old laptops, devices that might not be, up to the latest standard. They might not even be Wi-Fi 5 capable. So you have it all over the place, but you really can't discriminate and say, okay, well, this device is not allowed on the network. I mean, potentially you can, but you might have a lot of unhappy and disgruntled individuals when that does apply. So that's one of the things that you can definitely count on in these environments, the inconsistency of Wi-Fi client devices. So with that, what we want to kind of do next is take a look. We'll do a brief demos on Ekahau AI Pro application. If you haven't seen it, this will be a good opportunity as to what it looks like, some of the considerations, how you go about accounting for some of these different requirements and things like that. So I am going to briefly share my screen here. We will move this over and we'll take a look at Ekahau AI Pro. So, I figured this was a good opportunity for me to kind of go back to school, revisit my college. I went to the University of Pittsburgh. This is actually the dorm that I stayed in at the time. Wi-Fi was not around in the dorms. So, it's really interesting to go back and, even see which room probably was mine and just think about some of these considerations, but more so from a Wi-Fi perspective today. So as you can see here, this is a floor plan. This is actually a dorm building. I do have some access points placed, but as you can see, obviously not all access points are placed. So we do have these gray areas. So I use these kind of as starting points rather than go entirely from scratch, because, it can take some time if we were to start from scratch to draw up the walls, scale your floor plan and things like that. So just wanted to fast forward a little bit. Now, in this particular case, we do have some access points that obviously are mounted in some dorm buildings. You'll notice as I click on this access point, we see the coverage associated with this particular AP. If we choose edit, we'll see a little bit more detail right here. So we notice in this case, this is an Aruba AP 50 or 505H. So this is a hospitality access point. So basically, these get installed kind of like at a wall jack location, maybe 1.5 feet up from the floor. Larry, are these pretty common these days that you see, or what, in dormant locations?
Absolutely. Yeah. The ability for them to provide a Ethernet connection as well as a wireless connection is pretty valuable for the students. It gives them options. So we do see those in our residential dorms.
Yep. And that's what I chose to go with for this particular location. Now, obviously, we do altogether have over 4,500 different AP antenna combinations to choose from. Maybe you want to go with the omnidirectional internal antenna APs, ceiling mounted. Very well, those are options as well. So you get a chance to kind of play around, simulate that environment, understand what works best for your particular needs and use cases. Now, with this particular floor plan, of course, I scaled it. Very simple to do. You take our scale tool, take a known distance. Typically, the longer the better. And then you left click and drag across that known distance, type in a corresponding value. From there, it's scaled for you thereafter. So we have our scaling in place. Next thing you typically want to do is define your requirement areas. And this is going to be key. You do that using our area tool. So in this case, we go to requirement areas. And actually, to help better visualize things, I'm just going to turn off our visualizations. So in this case, you see I have a red half, I have a blue half. So what I've done was created 2 requirement areas across this floor. So, you could definitely do it as one, get a little more granular if you break it down. So with this, let's look at some of the considerations around an area. So I'm going to click along our area right here and choose edit area. So here's where you give it a name. I just called it generically left half. I gave it a color of red. You have some options in here, really helpful again for distinguishing between requirement areas so you can quickly see, okay, this is one area, this is another. So it allows you to quickly see where the areas, separate and such. But more importantly, is going to be a coverage profile where we do have a number of options available out of the box for you. Some from general use cases or typical use cases, some from some of your top AP vendors and manufacturers based off some of their Wi-Fi best practices. But more common and best practice is to create your own coverage requirement profile. So you'll notice here, I have Dale's practice 3. Now, if we go to configure profiles here, we get a better look at what these coverage requirements profiles consist of. A number of key criteria towards ensuring, engaging, and assessing your Wi-Fi. So we have primary, secondary, even up to tertiary signal strength, signal to noise ratio, data rates, channel interference, minimum number of access points, round trip time, and packet loss. So these are all key criteria that will really help you understand how your Wi-Fi environment fares against your particular requirements. You'll notice also these columns by frequency band, 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz. So not a problem. If you have Wi-Fi 6E, Wi-Fi 7 in scope, you can account for that as well. But this is where we start talking about the capacity considerations. So the number of devices, device type and capabilities, the applications. So you'll notice we have a column for each one of those. Out of the box, we do have a number of generic items or devices for you, generic smartphone, tablet, VoIP phone, but also you'll notice some outside of the generic. These are what I've created. Oftentimes it's a best practice to really simulate that environment as precisely as possible. So, I've just threw in some Wi-Fi printers here. We have iPhone 15, iPhone 16, PS5, you can't forget that, Apple TV. So a number of different devices and then the type of application. So ultimately, when we assess or try to gauge what's our airtime utilization going to expected to look like, or capacity health, what's that expected to look like? These are where you feed in those key criteria and values. So now we could turn back on a visualization of primary signal strength, and we'll just go up here. Now, altogether, we do have 26 different heat map visualizations. So this is going to give you a good idea how that Wi-Fi environment looks, whether it's these simulated access points or later, if you survey your measured APs. So we go here. Now, again, we do have some areas where primary signal strength is not meeting our requirements. So we might want to address those. So some of these simulated access points, again, we'll dive in, look at how these are currently configured right now at about 2 feet height from the floor. These are plugged in, so vertically aligned. So we see that orientation right there. But there are some options depending on the AP model. Maybe you want to specify ceiling mounted, wall mounted, floor mounted, or, for some of those, maybe you want to account for a down tilt. Oftentimes the case where you might be deploying directional antennas, external directional antennas and such. So you can account for down tilt. Tweaking your transmit power levels, you can do that. Channels. So a number of things you could do with these simulated access points. Now, for this model that I chose, I'm just going to, let's just do it this way. So let's start placing some more of these. We want to ensure first and foremost, we have more coverage throughout. So I'm just going to copy. Now we'll just paste. There's an option to paste here. So we just paste right there. So we have that covered. Now, this one right here, I'm gonna just want to line something across here in this case. So we just paste right here. Now, again, in your actual environments, you'll play around with it, see what works best. But I'm just going to take this approach for now. So even we'll do right here, we'll paste right there. Now, by default, this one is facing downwards because I copied that one. But now what we can do is take this AP, antenna, and let's move it back here. Let's suppose this is a wall jack AP, and we want to aim this and direct it closer to, let's see, there we go. Aim it that way, because we wanted to kind of point down more so into the rooms, not so much the hallway area. So we can aim and direct that. Now I'll just continue to do this approach a little bit. We'll copy it, zoom out a little bit. Well, I have one right there. So we might be good for right there. Maybe we paste right here. And we take this one that already has the proper orientation that I'm looking for. So we just, copy right there or paste right here. So as we look throughout coverage now, let's see. So pretty much we have sufficient coverage. Maybe we want to consider moving this one over there from a planning perspective to address that gap, or maybe we just add another one. But you get the idea. Now that these are in place, okay, well, these APs, I did a copy and paste on them. So one of the things that we can look at is network health. Network health is going to give you a very simple pass-fail indication showing you what areas meet your requirements entirely versus those that have at least one criteria to fail. So in this case, we see some green, but we see a lot of red. Now what we can do is take advantage of network issues. That's going to show us why our requirements aren't being met. So we do have these areas where that are pink, channel interference isn't meeting our requirements, but also we have these areas where secondary signal strength is not meeting our requirements. Now, if we want to take a look at the capacity health, we can go right here. And this is going to give us another legend we can take a look at. Now, in this case, why my capacity health is showing that it is okay. Let me see. But actually, yeah, my channels do look different here. So maybe you are okay from a capacity health perspective. But one of the things we can do is go to the inspect workspace and do some inspection. So this allows us to click throughout. So yeah, we do see confirmed in here, visualization details, airtime 14% over here, 18 clients, 16 clients. So again, it comes down to the number of devices, device type capabilities, the applications that you have in place. Now, this is a manual approach that I took as far as placing the access points, but we also do have a feature called AI Auto Planner. So maybe you want a little bit of assistance as far as placing these APs for you with the ability to thereafter relocate those APs, make adjustments, add, remove some. You do have that option and capability also. So these are some of the basics, within this application in the dorm type of environment or floor plan, but also, we have an outdoor location. So this is actually the student union of where I used to go to school, University of Pittsburgh. So, maybe the lawn is an area of interest where you want to ensure coverage. So in this case, I used a Google map. So I actually went to Google Earth actually and brought this in, but we also have an Ekahau survey application that has an Apple Maps integration that will bring this floor plan or this map in for you already scaled. Even a GPS assisted survey option that's really good for outdoors that I'll mention again a little bit later. You'll notice in this case, you can account for the different attenuation areas. So we're not talking just, things that are found inside a building, but also outside a building. In this case, some of the trees, the foliage out there, you can account for that. Your APs mounted at various heights and such. In this case, we are using some external directional antennas. You'll notice that once I click on this particular AP, we see the coverage associated with this based on this particular external antenna and its properties. Alongside this AP that's represented, we see the channels across the 3 frequency bands. So 2.4, 5, 6 gigahertz. So this is a 6 gigahertz capable access point. We have the 6 gigahertz heat map visualization we could take a look at that you see right here. But when we choose edit on this one, you'll notice this AP is mounted a little bit higher at 20 feet high. So you can specify various heights. The down tilt currently at negative 47 degrees. Maybe we want to see how this looks at minus 30 degree down tilt. And if there were any significant changes, you can account for that. Also, how you direct that or aim that particular antenna or antennas, you do have that capability as well within this particular application. So a number of things that you can do. And again, you can always go to the inspect workspace and take a look at a number of other things here as well. So all types of environments you can simulate that are actually reflective of your true environment. Oops, sorry. So what I want to do next is we will bring some of my slides back up in just a moment. And Here we go. All right. So we looked at AI Pro more so from a predictive planning and design perspective, but oftentimes it is going to be very important to do validations as well. Maybe it is a new building and then the access points have been installed based on your plan that you've passed over to the installation team. So at that point, when we talk about validation, where access points are in place, this is where our measurement device known as the Sidekick 2 comes into play. So this is going to ensure the accuracy of your measurements, largely thanks to the 9 custom wideband antennas built into it. So this will give you omnidirectional measurement. So we're talking, let's say you are at a location and you'll be able to get readings from floors all around you, above, below, even multiple floors down or above. Also, 4 tri-band Wi-Fi radios. So when it comes to measurements, rest assured you can account for 2.4, 5, as well as 6 gigahertz frequency bands. And with the 4 of these working in unison, you can get surveys done in a fraction of the time compared to what it used to be before. Also, very important is the built-in spectrum analyzer. So with that, oftentimes you may see it being the case where the Wi-Fi bars, the signal strength looks totally good, but keep getting disconnected. Well, that could be due to something in the spectrum. There could be an interferer. So how do you get visibility as to what that interferer might be, or what channels it's impacting, or how it's utilizing those channels? You're going to get that with the spectrum analyzer. This does 50 sweeps per second. So even if it is an interferer that appears very quickly and disappears just as fast, the likelihood of missing that is very minimal, if at all, with this 50 sweeps per second spectrum analyzer. And lastly, it does have its own battery. For some of you that might have been doing surveys for quite a while or a long time, it used to be the case where you had USB dongles, multiple USB dongles plugged into your laptop, draining your battery relatively quickly. So you almost be spending just as much time recharging your laptop as you would surveying. Not the case here. It does have its own battery built into it with a quick charge feature. So in the event that it's dead completely or relatively drained, with 1 hour of recharging it, you get additional 4 hours of usage out of it. So a little bit more about the Sidekick 2. How do you use it? So the Sidekick 2 is a wearable device. You plug it into, you have your laptop as an option, but many nowadays prefer to plug it into their mobile device, their phone or their tablet. Long as it's Android or iOS based, not a problem. Single USB-C connection. It has a strap you wear across your torso so that it stands or sits hands-free to the side of your hips or waist. Now, we have an application called Ekahau Survey. This is one that runs on your Android and iOS devices. So simply just plug your Sidekick into your phone or tablet as mentioned, and you have a few different survey options. You have the more traditional stop and go and continuous, but on the iOS version, you have the autopilot as well. Really simplifies the survey process. You just do an initial calibration, really just indicating 2 points of where you have initially started, where you've walked once thereafter. From there, you're just walking, locations automatically pinpointed on there. More recently, we added Just Go. Larry, have you had a chance to use Just Go?
Oh yeah. I tried it out as soon as you guys released it. I actually bought a tablet just for that simple purpose, and it was pretty neat. It's pretty neat.
Yep. So yeah, if you have an iOS device with the LiDAR capabilities built into it, the LiDAR sensor built into it, you can take advantage of this. So, if you don't have a floor plan or the one you have is inaccurate, outdated, not a problem. Just Go Survey is going to help you with that. And we'll take a look. We'll give you a better look of how that looks and how that works. But also you'll notice really helpful for those outdoor use cases, the GPS survey. So you can do a GPS assisted survey right from your mobile device. Currently, this is going to be your iOS devices that have that GPS capability. So it's going to be your phones, of course, and your iPads that are not Wi-Fi only. So really, essentially, you could bring in your floor plan or your outdoor map using the Apple Maps integration. When it's time to survey, let the GPS pinpoint and track where you are. You don't have to continue to tap or indicate where you are. Really helpful for also if it's a large outdoor area, you have a mobile vehicle, you want to ride around, collect measurements across that entire campus. Very simple to do with that. So I did mention the GPS assisted, the Just Go survey. This again is one of our newer innovations. So essentially you see how it works right here. You take that rear facing camera of that iOS device, start scanning the surrounding walls, objects, areas. They become painted in green as you see right here. In correspondence with that, down below the bottom portion of the screen, it's dynamically building out a sketch of that floor plan for you while automatically pinpointing where you are in relation to that floor plan as you collect survey data. So a lot of things it's doing at once. You don't have to worry about importing anything, scaling it, or even tapping on a map indicating where you are. And that's called the Just Go survey. So again, we talked about support for outdoor campus Wi-Fi coverage. Again, we have a very simple Apple Maps integration. You could do a GPS assisted survey. You also can take advantage of any other options that are available in there. You can even do a hybrid of any of the different survey methods in a single project. So you'll really get a feel of what method works best for you based on your particular project and use case. Now, also within that application, when it comes to, from a security perspective, very important. The survey application will quickly allow you to see where rogue access points are located, their area or impact of coverage. Maybe you just simply want to get an idea of how many users in our environment are activating using their hotspots. Could this be contributing to some poor performance on some of our networks out there, especially on 2.4 gigahertz. So from a security perspective there, but also interferers that I mentioned, you conduct a survey, you might want to see where those interferers are located in relation to that floor plan. This application will show you that as well. You'll be able to tap on the icon or the image associated with that interferer and get interferer details. So it makes it really convenient, but also, if you're in charge of managing your Wi-Fi networks for your particular organization, your university, the ability to quickly see where weak security is configured. Oftentimes this is a gateway to or entrance to vulnerabilities into your network. Very common to have wired printers that have wireless capability. Open SSID leads to an easy path into the wired network. So this also gives you quick insight as to where those AP radios are that have weak security configured. What's nice as well is optimization. So let's suppose you conduct a survey. Now you have these pretty heat maps, maybe ugly heat maps, but showing you, okay, these are the areas that need to be addressed, but you may want to spend some time to understand, okay, what are the next steps? What do we need to do to improve or optimize this? Now you can definitely, go through, take some thought, some time thinking this through, but also you do have at your disposal an additional expert that will help you with this in the form of our optimizer feature and functionality. And what this does is it's going to break that measured data down across a number of criteria, showing you across 3 severity levels how things fare. Green means good, orange means slight opportunity to optimize, red is going to reveal that this is where you had the greatest opportunity to improve or optimize. In addition to general best practices, it'll also lay out for you on a per AP radio basis the recommended configuration adjustments to better meet your requirements. So next I want to talk about, a reality, multiple large campuses. It might be the case that you have a small network team. You don't really get a chance to visit or go to those other sites to ensure high performing Wi-Fi to do those regular health checks. But there's a lot of physical resources that you can, use. Maybe you do have somebody at a different location that you can call up. They might not be a Wi-Fi engineer, not even a network engineer, maybe part of the desktop services team. But it might make sense for them, for that particular local region, to walk that site periodically, send that data back to you. So that's where what we offer, Ekahau Measure, comes into play. Ekahau Measure is a survey-only license or subscription, allows that user to specifically use that Ekahau survey application that we talked about and conduct a survey. You'll have those heat maps. Now they can send it back to those of you that do have the full product suite. So now you can come up with the reports or run Optimizer, or even use that information towards the next project that's going to be a refresh or such. So I do want to mention that. Also want to mention, when it comes to dashboard integrations, it could be quite a task to bring all those floor plans into your respective dashboard. But not only that, to drag each one of those access points onto where you think it is in relation to that floor plan. We do have some AP vendor integrations that allow for that zero-touch provisioning to take that data from your Ekahau project file and in a matter of moments, bring that into your respective dashboard or controller. So definitely some time-saving benefits there, but also it helps you ensure the accuracy. So when it comes to troubleshooting, you know that the clients that are associated in this area around AP1 are truly there. Or maybe you're taking advantage of location-based services. You know that this AP is truly there. Or maybe from a sustainability perspective, where you want to do some power saving initiatives, turn off certain APs on certain floors, certain areas during certain hours or days. This ensures that you know exactly and precisely where those are located. So with that, I just want to quickly talk about AI Pro Online. This is one of our newest innovations, newest features. It's a new way that you can go about doing your refresh, but also simulation and optimization of your environments. And now you can even do your predictive design and planning in AI Pro Online. So web-based application, simply log into your Ekahau cloud. There's an option to access AI Pro Online. And essentially, here's the workflow. You walk the location with your sidekick too. So you conduct a survey. You save that project to the Ekahau cloud. Now bring it into AI Pro Online. Thereafter, now you can actually simulate changes in that measured environment. So maybe you want to see if we were to reposition this particular access point, what's that going to look like? If we were to tweak the transmit power levels, adjust the channels, what's that going to look like? So really good for simulating these things before going ahead and making changes in production. Allows you to be strategic with it. Now, another thing, this is brand new. As I mentioned, you do have the ability now to do predictive designs in AI Pro Online, bring in your floor plan. There's even some nice auto wall drawing opportunities in there, options and features. So you don't have to spend so much time drawing the walls. But maybe you want to take a look at some of these walls, attenuation areas from a 3D perspective. This is now available. This is a capability. I know there has been a lot of demand for a number of years to see some 3D visualization. So you do have that available in AI Pro Online. Today, but also coming is going to be some extended modeling capabilities. Larry, I think, on our Wi-Fi day, there was a stadium that you actually covered that you did. It would have been nice probably to have some of this extended modeling capabilities around for that, right?
Oh yeah. And don't worry, there's still an opportunity. We still haven't completed that project yet. But I saw the slide, got excited, been looking forward to it for some time now. So hoping for some good news soon.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, on these campuses, we have arenas in play, we have stadiums in play. So these extended modeling capabilities are really going to help you, visualize things from not only a 3D perspective, but seeing things from sloped elevations. You have the different you have ramps, you have stairwells and such. So this is going to be really nice. You can look at things from an inclined perspective. So this is coming very soon to the AI Pro application, AI Pro Online. And then as we conclude talking about this before I give it to Larry, if you're not familiar with the Ekahau Analyzer application, this too is an application that runs on Android and iOS devices. Conveniently allows you to get a real-time bill of health of your Wi-Fi environment. Are your requirements being met or not across the list of criteria? Give you a simple pass-fail indication in which you can drill in to understand why those requirements aren't being met if that is the case. If you need to do some in-depth packet analysis, for your troubleshooting, you can do over-the-air packet captures to do those for packet analysis. Your spectrum analysis, as you can see in this image right here, we see some of the spectrum activity. So you have that capability. And with that, we recently brought in the speed test integration. So many of you might already be familiar with the speed test application as a standalone app. Well, now you can do your speed test, run those in conjunction with spectrum analysis. So maybe you can see if there's an interferer that could be impacting the Wi-Fi performance, or maybe some channel utilization, saturation that's going on. Is there a correlation? So with the speed test integration, you now have that capability also in the Analyzer application. And soon to come, you'll start to see more integrations from some of our sister brands under Ookla. So with that, now, Larry, want to give it to you. Talk a little bit about some of your use cases. We'll put you on a microphone right now in the spotlight. But before I do let him speak, Larry is a guy that joined us for our Wi-Fi Day event a few years back. Had a really nice segment there. Actually had the opportunity to meet Larry at a few conferences. Very cool, down to earth guy. A lot of good experience, and he used Ekahau in a number of ways. And now we'll kind of let him talk about who he is and how he's used Ekahau in some of his roles.
I appreciate the intro, Dale. And it was a pleasure meeting you as well. Hey guys, my name's Larry Urweta. I'm a network engineer for Northern Arizona University. You guys are my audience, right? I'm hoping a lot of you guys are from universities as well. So a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today, I'm hoping it's relatable. I hope you guys are sharing in the struggle, and I'm just going to briefly talk a little bit about our deployment here on campus, and then some of the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. But But NAU is located in Flagstaff, about an hour south from the Grand Canyon in Arizona, of course. And our wireless footprint is roughly 4,000 access points with around, on average, 30,000 wireless clients. And we have both, types of buildings, both academic and residential buildings on campus. So we have a unique ecosystem across campus as it relates to wireless as a whole. And in many ways, we're kind of a little community unto ourselves, which presents itself with opportunities and some unique challenges, as you can imagine. We're primarily a Cisco shop, but we have a wide variety of access points deployed depending on the use case and just the evolution of older wireless generations and newer generations mixed in the buildings, depending on whether or not we're able to renovate. I guess we can kind of talk about a little bit of the architecture of some of these buildings, as was mentioned earlier. Both historic and modern, those present unique challenges just from a design perspective. And the material, I think Ryan mentioned earlier. I do want to point out, though, what I find unique about working in this environment is just, yes, you have different wall types, but the contents of the wall can sometimes be a safety hazard. We have asbestos in some walls, and we can't necessarily drill or mount equipment where we want them. So that presents some unique challenges in trying to work around those limitations and still trying to meet the design requirements or deploy wireless for students where we need it. I think it was also mentioned, I don't know if you guys also depending on the size of your guys' team, we have about 5 individuals on our team that actually support the wireless infrastructure, both from a design perspective and a support perspective. But we do more than that, right? I imagine a lot of you guys out there are wearing different hats and doing different networking technologies. I personally did not start as a wireless engineer. I started out as just a straight up route switch engineer. And over the years, kind of like, drifted towards a wireless just because I find it interesting. But in a university setting, just in the residential and academic space, you have to kind of be quick to pivot on what the design looks like, how you deploy wireless in some of those areas. And we talked a little bit about capacity earlier, just the sheer nature of some of these larger buildings like or lecture halls or rooms where we have just a large amount of students and their wireless devices, and then also in their dorm space where they kind of expect to have almost like a home experience. So we have to take that into consideration whenever we're kind of deploying wireless, in specific settings. So we in the residential space, we try and do our best to provide, the best coverage, but also make the onboarding process as painless as possible. Students are bringing in, like, Dale mentioned, their Xboxes, their PS5s, all kinds of wireless devices. And we try and do our best to make sure that we can kind of get them on the wireless with the least amount of resistance as possible.
So Larry, here's a question. With so many different types of devices, so many students, how do you kind of get a good idea and gauge what type of devices are out there? One thing that came to mind as I was thinking about this, I used to be a radius administrator for a particular solution, and it would do profiling. So that was one way how you could find devices. But how do you find out all the different types of devices that you need to accommodate for your Wi-Fi network? What are some ways?
So depending on the vendor, right? The controller has some features where you can kind of identify the types of clients that you see and the number of clients that are currently joined. Cisco has their own, appliances or tool sets that allow you to see that if you guys are familiar with the Catalyst Center. And there's reports that you can generate or, certain dashboards that you can view to kind of get a sense of what's out there. But that's what makes Ekahau kind of a great tool, right? Because it's not vendor specific, it's not device specific, and you're able to kind of simulate what that environment is going to look like, and design it the best way possible for the sheer number of devices. I'm I'm a huge fan. So obviously I've watched all the previous webinars from Ekahau, and there's this notion of a least capable, most important device that they like to throw around. Doesn't exist typically on a campus environment. Everything is important, right? Wireless plays such a critical role for just the day-to-day operations for both students, faculty, and staff, albeit the utility is different, but everybody relies on it. You know, it's something that they rely on, that they depend on, that they almost expect. And that, I think, is an interesting concept when you realize that students almost expect to have wireless in the same way they expect to have utility services like water or electricity. It becomes very important to maintain it, right? And so having the tool set to just make sure you're designing it right and the best possible way, I think, is a testament to just the to Ekahau and all the tools that are available to us at our disposal, you know, from the designing aspect of it to the troubleshooting aspect of it.
Yeah, great points. So Larry, one of the things, you know, maybe not everyone has seen the Wi-Fi Day event. I know, as mentioned, you were in a stadium environment. You used Ekahau to help you towards a particular use case or objective. Can you kind of just summarize what that was?
Yeah, so so some of you might remember in my presentation, I mentioned we were deploying Cisco's, at the time, it was the latest AP out there. It was the Cisco Marlin, or the Cisco 9104. And I actually have one here. I can just to kind of give you guys an idea.
Wow.
Compared to my face here.
Nice.
This guy is a stadium specific. Sorry about that. It's a stadium specific or stadium grade access point able to support like hundreds of clients, right? And it's purpose built for that environment, right? The if you guys notice, the enclosure is NEMA rated. It has specific mounts that it can kind of, you can utilize to get it deployed. And I think initially it came about as just another project, right? Another random project that comes across our desk. And we were trying to just improve the wireless connectivity, which had been long overdue. We deployed a couple of these units, and obviously deploying it is just one aspect of it, but you need a design for it, right? So we leveraged Ekahau's AI Pro software to just kind of simulate what it would look like, what's the best position to kind of angle them at, as Dale kind of showed you earlier. And then supplementing that with survey data to just make sure that it matches, but then going even a step further to say, hey, optimizer, what are some of the suggestions that that you have that we can make some improvements? And in doing that, we discovered that there's a lot of channel overlap, and we went back in and had to fix it. We realized later that there's a default setting on these specific access points that required, or that set them to the same channel from the beginning. And they probably would have, you know, adjusted over time, over a period of time, whatever interval or configuration you have set on your controller. But it was nice to have that visibility into the design and be able to correct it, you know, quickly, and then go back, survey, do some more testing. So yeah, Ekahau in that way was a great asset. They're just pointing that out for us, you know, because we definitely don't want to be realizing this game day, right? You know, a lot of you guys are football fans, so as you kind of know, stadiums in and of itself, they're really unique, open space. You know what I mean? Wireless is just rampant everywhere. So making sure you get those channels just right is crucial, you know, before a large event like that.
Yep. Thanks, Larry. And before we give over, you know, open up to Q&A for our guests out here, our audience, one last question for you. So how, if at all, has Ekahau helped you develop new Wi-Fi skills?
I think it's just made me a better wireless engineer in general. I mean, a lot of you guys might not be wireless experts, but you still have to manage and maintain the wireless. So just having an optimizer there just to kind of, you know, call out and point out some of the key factors that it can have, you know, performance benefit or performance boost for you guys is super valuable. I think just having that in the background gives me that extra level of confidence, you know, as I've, you know, studied more and learned more about the wireless, being able to call out those, you know, rogue devices, identify specific issues, like you kind of mentioned, the, you know, the generic health status. You know, the green and red is a nice visual. So just it's made me more aware of things when I walk into a building on what to look for, what to kind of think about, what to account for, and then you know how to address that, right? You know, resident dorms have just a bunch of rogue devices, right? People, Brian was mentioning that they're bringing in like their own wireless routers, in addition to their own like smart devices. Some of that can wreak havoc on the wireless, and it makes, you know, the university look bad. So making sure that we correct those and we make sure that we provide the best wireless functionality possible for our faculty, staff, and students is super valuable. And Ekahau and all its tool sets allow us to do that, from design to troubleshooting all the way to just making suggestions. And it's been a great tool to have in our toolkit.
Awesome. Well, I definitely commend all of you all who support these environments, because it's definitely not a small or easy undertaking for sure.
Just want to say thank you so much to Dale and to Larry and to Ryan for leading us today and for sharing their experiences and the demos and expertise here. And thank you to all of you for attending. And if you do have questions for us, please don't hesitate to follow up. And we look forward to chatting with you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys.